When we talk about respecting the old, respecting the ancient, respecting your heritage, sustainability is a word that's trending right now. We're talking about sustainable tomorrows. But like ma'am referenced earlier, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers were sustainable even before they were aware of the existence of the word. It's so deeply ingrained in our culture. Somewhere along the way, there is that disconnect wherein, like you said, you need someone from the US to tell us that braids are fashionable again and coconut oil is amazing for you and let's go back to cloth bags like how your grandmothers did. So, where do you think we should be making strides in when it comes to sustainability?
It has to start from home. We don't have a culture of mending things anymore. If something is broken,
We toss it to the side,
yes,
and we get something new
we
to
don't
replace
try to get
it.
it fixed. So that is where we can start. Small little things. You buy only what you are going to be able to consume. You don't order 10 dishes at a restaurant and then eat only 2 and leave the rest. These are, again, this is part of a value system that has to be inculcated at home. I mean, now it is turned into a marketing pitch. Sustainably sourced. I don't know where it's sourced from, but it invariably says organic and sustainable and so on. And if that is what works for the youth, so be it. Then you can say that we can have sustainable practices at home. And why just sustainability? I would say that a lot of things that are now fashionable, multiculturalism, we aced diversity and inclusion the time when this nation was born. We've been multicultural for as long as I can remember. We've been inclusive. But now it is, you have what DEI specialists, diversity, equity, equality or inclusion, and so on. So I think it would help if we went back to our roots and learned from our own values, our cultural values. That's a good place to start, I would say.
And since we're giving people a roadmap on how to figure things out, we live in a world where misinformation is rampant. You have headlines that are pure clickbait and incredibly misleading. So, for a lot of us out there, there's this question of where do you look for a reasonably well researched, a trustworthy voice when it comes to news? So, for all of our students out here, where do they look to for their research? Where do they look to for their news? Can you tell them how they can identify a good source?
Watch Vantage and read First Post. But that won't be a very objective answer. So I would say that you have to build your trusted sources of information. When information becomes plentiful, it's credibility that becomes more important. There is a lot that is being circulated. So you have to build credible sources. You have to find, and if it appears too good to be true, if it's too dramatic to be true, then it probably isn't. So it's important to double check. Increasingly, technology, because the problem originated with technology, technology has to find solutions as well. You have filters, you have ways to cross-check how old a video is, but I would still say that social media is not the best source of information. It is not a source of news. You can probably watch reels and memes there, but please don't depend on only Instagram or Snapchat. Increasingly, a lot of people are watching news on Snapchat.
They get their news, they get their therapy, they get their dieting advice, all of it from one platform.
And financial advice. There are these finfluencers who are telling people which stocks to invest in or diet fads. It is all very dangerous. Recently, I read a story that in Ireland, they have a shortage of cucumber because there's a TikTok trend that talks about the therapeutic value of cucumber. So everyone's buying and experimenting.
There are entire handles with chefs who only cook with cucumber because apparently cucumber is life-changing.
Yeah. But pick up 2 or 3 sources. There are good sources of journalistic content still out there. It'll take a little bit of effort maybe. They'll not be as glitzy as the kind of stuff that you're used to watching. But when I was in school, I used to read Frontline, the magazine. It was very hard to read. And my father used to give me, we used to make a demand draft or something to get an annual subscription. So he said, this is the money and get it done. And I must have been in class 9 or 10 maybe. And I thought, this is such a difficult magazine to read. Let me change something. And I ordered Teens Today instead of Frontline. And I saw the difference. You have a good source of information, news, magazines, websites, or books, you should be sorted.
So, usually, a credible source is never the most entertaining, nor the loudest voice in the room. So, those are the sources I think we all need to look out for. I wanted to ask you this because you are in a field where so much of what you do is up for public debate. Everything that you say gets analyzed, videos get turned into memes, one liners go viral, your views are more often than not misrepresented by others. Because who has the patience to watch a 15-minute video when you can watch a 9-second reel? Does all this take a toll on your mental health? Where do you find your resilience, your tenacity to cope with all of this?
I would be lying if I said that it doesn't. It does impact you. Even if you've done this for years, when you see people quoting you out of context, sometimes it's your own peers, sometimes it's viewers, the immediate impulse is to write back to them and say, please watch the full thing, or I don't agree with you here. But then you realize over a period of time that the volume is so large, and not everyone who's engaging with you or trolling you is doing it based on the issue. They're doing it because it serves a purpose, or they subscribe to an ideology, or are generally unhappy with their lives. I don't know what their problem is, but they write all sorts of things. They make personal comments. You have to really train yourself to shut it out. And it's not easy. When we pick our stories every day, we see what is trending on social media. And it's usually some inane things that are trending. And your first instinct is that maybe this is what people want to talk about. And then you have to rationalize and say that, no, this is a story that may not be as exciting or glamorous, but I want to tell this one. Same with the social media responses. It does impact you. So when my children say that, they're entering their teens and they want an account, and I have, they are not on social media yet, but some of my friends have kids on social media who write to me sometimes that please like my reel on Instagram, I'll get more followers. Which is fine, I'll do it, but that pressure that 9-year-old is under to get more followers already is unnecessary. And while it's nice to have followers and people watching your work and saying good things, over a period of time, you know that they're not your family.
I know, but nowadays, especially for youngsters, so much of their social standing is tied to their status on a social media network. It is how popular are you on a social media network that makes you the cool kid, the it girl in the school or the it girl in the college. And I can't even imagine having to live with that pressure and grow up under that lens. I think that sounds daunting to begin with.
It is, and I think social media forces you to be a starker version of yourself. You always want to make your line a little more edgy. You want to be funnier than you may be in real life. You want to get more people to like it or react
You're
to
maybe
it.
going to say things which you wouldn't normally say.
You wouldn't say, and you hide behind the screen because you won't say those things to people in person, but you'll type those comments because you're not facing that person. So I think a good filter would be to think that would I actually say it if this person was in front of me? If you wouldn't, then please don't post it.
I think we can all learn to edit ourselves and our responses online a little bit better. And before we open the floor to questions, I know that you like working with youngsters on your team. And I've heard you do that because you like the way that they think, they have new ideas. There's also a lot you can learn from them. They help you understand the pulse of the world and the youngsters. What is something you've learned from some of the youngsters on your team?
They're reworking English. Do you know that? They
Sorry,
come up
what?
with words. So I learned recently a word called poggers. Poggers is supposed to be cool or something, and they don't
I'm
say
not
yeah.
cool enough to know the
Yeah.
word or what it means.
So Gen Alpha is remaking. I don't hire Gen Alpha yet; they're still too young. But yes, young people come up with their own ideas. What I also like about, sometimes I don't like it so much, but mostly I like it, is that they are more clear about boundaries than we ever were. We always believed in the concept of authority. if you've been told to do something, you take it as a privilege and you do it, and you don't say that, okay, this is the weekend and I'm not going to work, or I have something else coming up, or I booked a ticket for such and such movie, and you would just throw everything else and do that thing. But I learned from my younger colleagues that it's very important to set boundaries for yourself and for people around you and say it.
I like that. You can also tell that there's been a shift in parenting that's happened. We've all been parented by authoritarian parenting styles, and they've got more gentle, authoritative parents. So they understand setting boundaries and finding their own agency.
We are the sandwich generation. We listen to our parents and we listen to our children.
I love how she's got me thinking of sandwiches now. But do we have mics going around? We're ready for questions.
Namaste, ma'am. I'm Neha of SSVM Institutions Medupalayam. I want to know, how do you deal with criticisms?
If it's constructive criticism and if I'm actually in the wrong, I try to fix it. If it's criticism for the sake of criticism, then I tell myself that I should not let this hold me back or bog me down. That is a decision that you have to take.
Thank you, ma'am.
Namaste, ma'am. It's an absolute privilege to have you here.
Thank you.
My question to you is, in India, do you believe that media is actually the fourth pillar of the democracy? If so, why? And if not, how can it be really the fourth pillar of democracy?
It's a very good question. The media is very much the fourth pillar of democracy. The media, like all other pillars, has its cracks and flaws, which can be fixed. We are not perfect, but neither is the rest of the society. The media has its set of challenges. But as a representative of the media here, along with Sahitya, I can say that, that there are enough and more people in our country who are doing very good work, who are very courageous, who go out of their way to present to you issues that they feel strongly about.
Thank you, ma'am. And I'm sure you're one of them. At least for
Hope
us,
so.
you are.
I
Thank
hope
you.
so.
I'm Pranav from 11th grade. My question is, what role do you think that the media plays in shaping public opinion?
What does media do? The media gives, or ideally should give you, the full picture of what's happening. And my favorite story on this is the story of Kashmir. In 2009-10, some of you may remember that there were these stone pelting incidents and a lot of schools were shut. I happened to go to Kashmir at that time, and I went sari shopping. No matter what I'm doing, I'm sari shopping. So I spoke to this guy who was selling saris in Srinagar, and I asked him what was happening, and he said that my kids have not been able to go to school because some people are upset with the political environment. And then one thing led to the other, and I was talking to the staff at the hotel and others, and I realized that I'm sure there are school kids who are unhappy with the status quo and wanted to burn their school. But there are so many other kids who want to still keep going to school. And the media was not telling their story. Most of it was foreign media, and it was telling the story of the children who wanted the school shut. But the many, many other children who wanted to go to school had no representation. So what can the media do? The media can bring you the full picture and help you assess the situation as it should be assessed. We were talking about the Gujarat floods yesterday. One small area being flooded and devastation and so on. But Gujarat is a much bigger state. So sometimes what happens is that a small thing gets exaggerated to the point where you lose the sense of proportion of how big a crisis really is. And the media helps, or through our stories, we help you understand that this is a problem, but there is so much more that's going on in the world. So I guess we help shape conversations. Eventually, it is your decision as to how you process it.
Ma'am, my name is Gaurav from SSVM School, Metropolitan. I have a question for you. The question is that what were the difficulties that you faced when you just started in the industry of journalism?
I felt lost, honestly, and I was an avid reader for as long as I can remember. But when you are, like I said, no two stories are similar, and something new keeps getting thrown at you all the time.
And you can't know everything.
And you
about
can't know everything. And then you have senior colleagues who are like, oh, maybe you can talk to this person. And you're like, how do you know everything about everything? It's because they've been doing it for a very long time. So initially I used to feel like I'm out of my depth And I started off as an anchor, so I had this imposter syndrome for the longest time, that someone's going to find out that I don't know. And so I should work harder and read more and do my research. And I used to go with a diary initially, in the initial years, because I had notes. So yeah, that was, but it also drives you to do your homework well.
Namaste, ma'am. I'm Utkarsh of grade 12. Ma'am, given your experience and seniority in this field, what advice would you give to journalists who are aspiring to leave a mark in this industry?
Whatever you do, try to ace it. Don't try to be a journalist because you want to be on screen. 90% of journalists I work with never appear on air, but they are meticulous individuals, very well read, completely in command of their subjects, and inspiring figures in the newsroom. So there are many, many parts to journalism, in a TV newsroom, in a digital newsroom, in a print newsroom. You have to see where your strength lies. Even if I want to be, I cannot be a video journalist because my framing is not up to the mark. So you have to know what you're good at, and you have to do your homework well. I think reading is very important. Otherwise, the viewer is very discerning, and they're very quick to judge, and they will know that there's no depth in this commentary. So for anyone who is starting, please read more than WhatsApp and be confident, but also know what your limitations are so that you can make the best of what you have.
Ma'am, let's say you're reporting something or you're sharing your thoughts on an issue, and then let's say you've delivered it in the wrong way or you've put it in the wrong way, and then maybe unintentionally, because I've spoken in stage and I've not delivered it properly and it's gone in the wrong way. How would you handle that?
Only I know that it's wrong.
But I also know for a fact that you've come on the next day and corrected facts and done all of that. All of that adds to your credibility.
If you're factually incorrect, yes, you do that.
Yes.
But if you planned it a certain way and it did not come out that way, then it did not.
Yes, it didn't. We learn and we let go. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give it up for Palki Sharma?